I think this kind of project would connect communities in Alberta. It would put us in the forefront, for reducing our carbon footprint. It would also start to change our perspective, that we haul wood, pump oil out of the ground. Here's something that would be able to put us in the forefront. And I think that starts with Albertans coming to realize that they have the largest oil reserves on the planet. And along with that comes, responsibility, and also developing the brand name of Alberta. What does Alberta stand for? What do Albertans do with this wealth? How are they advancing their community, improving their standard of living? Things like that. Everybody's seen that Alberta has been very prosperous and has grown tremendously in the last 5-10 years. And it's almost like a Canadian self-doubt. Is it sustainable? When we've seen booms and busts here. The thing about the oil sands is that it's coming on stream just as the world demand is peaking. And I think that it's something that just isn't going to abate. There isn't going to be a slowdown, and we have to be prepared for that. I think it's one of the keystones for defining what Alberta is going to look like, the quality of life that we're going to have in 20, 30 years. It wasn't that long ago that somebody with great foresight developed the light rail transit system for Calgary. And even now, it's being utilized almost to capacity on some of the legs. I think everywhere where bullet trains have been implemented as a major transportation system for moving people, there's been more prosperity, more people traveling, more people doing business. And we've seen that just in the corridor between Calgary and Edmonton, Red Deer in the middle. The wealth that's been created there, the opportunities, it's becoming one of the growth areas for Canada. Initially I can see probably 4 or 5 trains, hourly service between Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton. The technology is readily available. Bombardier in Quebec is one of the world leaders for high-speed rail, and their major market is Europe, now China. Funnily enough, there's only 2 areas that people have looked at that said, well, this has possibility for high-speed rail in Canada. One is the Toronto, Kingston, Montreal corridor, and also the Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton corridor as well. I believe the primary responsibility for financing this would rest with the Alberta government. This year alone, they should have probably $4.5 billion surplus. And we're looking at a cost, looking at the highest technology, fastest trains, we're probably looking around $5 billion. The critical thing really isn't how it's going to be financed or who's going to pay for it, but when are we going to start it? Because it's going to take 5 years to build it. And I think we're already behind. We need that, rails being ordered, cars being ordered, things like that, all being implemented now. The provincial government has let it be known that they've picked up property in advance of this for stations in Calgary, Edmonton. But I think we need more than that. I think it needs to become public. They have to come out and say this is what our long-range plan is going to be, their time frame. This government's very hesitant. They're looking for somebody else like private enterprise or partnership. And I don't think for something that's going to last 100 years that we should be quibbling over, does it start this year, next year, or within the next 3 years. I think the need's going to be here, and we need to get started on right now. The real cost is going to be probably between $4 and $6 billion. And that really depends on what kind of trains, what kind of technology, and also when we get started. Obviously, the earlier we get started, the lower the cost is going to be. For this kind of a system, incorporating, tying in Fort McMurray with the development that's going on there, frees up those workers and the infrastructure needed in Fort McMurray if they can live in Edmonton and commute. It also gives more flexibility for the Alberta government for developing, say, a central hospital or diagnostic center in Red Deer that has access to over 70% of the population of Alberta. A world-class facility could put there. Maybe it's 10 MRI machines, that kind of a size increment, and it's something that is needed, and it's something that those costs could be shared with Western Canada, BC, Saskatchewan, and also with Saskatchewan coming on and proving up their oil sand reserves as well. It also is going to put us in competition. Is Saskatchewan going to make these kinds of plans and put these kinds of things in for their citizens? It's important to look at this as more than a high-speed rail corridor between the three major cities of Alberta. I think there's also the potential to look at it as a utility corridor. Maybe that means that where the rail is put in, that there's a bike or trail pass next to it. Also, maybe that also means that we can form some sort of authority for Alberta for fresh water. It means that a pipeline for fresh water could be laid when the rails are being put in, or at least planned ahead of time. Fiber optics, things like that. I think the average Albertan would be behind this. This is something that's going to protect their standard of living. It's not going to be eroded. It's not like an overpacked C train in Calgary. It's we can plan ahead for this. And our population, they're talking about it reaching, I think, 4 million, within 10 years. And I think that's actually very, very conservative. I think with the projects coming on stream, $100 billion worth of projects in northern Alberta, there's just a huge requirement for skilled people, for all the jobs, not just construction. We can provide those opportunities. That Alberta is a good place to come for opportunities, but it's also a good place to live and raise your family. I decided that there just wasn't enough information for the average Albertan to look up. There was just no one area to go to find the facts on that high-speed rail in Alberta. So I developed a website, albertabullettrain.com, and I tried to answer as many of the basic questions as I could, and also to provide a forum for people who wanted to write letters, personal interest, and to post it on that internet site.